Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, voice recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Thursday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream Crafting the Deep, which I build, right, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep, our only crafting session of this week, actually. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Max Savra, or Toril, this stream is not meant for you. It'll be full of spoilers. The rest of you, of course, are always welcome. We stream our sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. It's already been a big morning for me. We had my oldest had her little award graduation ceremony thing at 8 a.m. in the morning. So that was pretty busy getting kiddos all dressed and ready to go, getting me dressed and ready to go, which usually don't have to be quite that ready in the morning because I work from home. But we got everybody situated, everything was good, and went ahead and checked her out, so everybody's home officially. Summer break has begun. Also, I need to brag on my oldest briefly. She is in the 89th percentile for reading and the 83rd percentile for mathematics, so pretty cool for that. Of course, it's Texas, but hey, well, it's all relative, right? But exciting times, and I have only just wolfed down breakfast and coffee, so my schedule is all kinds of messed up, but we're still doing a crafting, damn it, because I didn't do one on Monday. I have been on single parent duty. The wife's been out of town this entire week. This week has been a blur. Holy crap, softball games and awards, and last week of schoolness and field days, and I'm ready to die, but we're stumbling in towards the finish line, just like the party is stumbling towards the finish line of this dungeon. Great segue, Eric. Thank you. It is a good segue as we talk about D&D, actually. I am very ready to be done with this dungeon. I assume my players are as well. They have been in here for approximately 5 or 6 sessions, I think. This entire quest arc, this is going to be the 8th session of this quest arc. With the first 2, we weren't actually in the dungeon. It wasn't until the third one, I believe, session 26, that we actually made, I'm checking my session notes, that we actually made it into this dungeon. But still, we're now on session 31. That's a long time to be in here, and it's a big dungeon, and we kind of skimped our way through it, but I'm glad we got to do our temple battle. I feel like we still got a good feel for it. The balance is, of course, crazy, but they did really like the chase sequence that we crafted before last time, and now we get to another tricky part where, like, I want to represent this chase sequence that we did in Theater of the Mind, and now we're going to actually transition into a battle, and I have to show all those tokens and like Horde of Sahuagin actually following them in battle. So this is a tricky one where we moved from a cinematic moment, like a kind of a cutscene, but like interactive. I think somebody mentioned like a quick time event, which is kind of what I was going for in terms of the chase we did last time. But now we're going into a battle where the players do not need to kill everybody. They just have an objective, which is to reach the exit space up here. So it's probably going to be a pretty quick, brutal, violent battle we got here. Yeah, she did not get math from me. She got it all from her mother. I am not the math person. But love of reading she got from both of us. That child loves to read. Holy moly. Now there is a gate here, which is a fun little objective to stop them. A bronze gate with a pulley. And I believe this does actually have some notes in it. I'm looking at the level 1 notes for the final enemies, Sahuagin Stronghold. None of the actual front doors matter in terms of tricking the guards. We're not doing any of that because obviously we're already in here. Don't worry about the alarm system. The doors are not magically locked. It can be opened with appropriate spells or enough brawn. The doors have an AC of 16, 45 hit points, and a damage threshold of 12. Wow. Can be forced open by a character or just make a successful DC 18 athletics check. That is bizarre. That would take a lot of damage versus just DC 18. Sounds high, but then when you've got a fighter built for that, he's got like a plus 12, I think, to athletics, plus 11. Not going to be that hard, but I guess he may shit the bed on that one. I think that's the outer door, though. I don't think that's the bronze door, right? Let's see, because that might actually be. Or here we go. Guarded gate to Sahuagin station in area 2 are not initially visible to the character. This is all the description is from the first room, so I'm doing this in reverse. The gate is normally closed and down. It is raised and lowered by means of a chain and pulley mechanism fastened on the north wall inside area 2 on the east side of the gate. It's actually on the west side on this map. Under normal circumstances, it takes 3 rounds to raise or lower the gate, but an emergency device allows the raised gate to be dropped in a split second with a muffled clang. So certainly they don't want to be... you can work the thing, but 3 rounds would be kind of a death sentence for them to be hanging around in this spot. Notice how I did actually put Savra's gust of wind. What I guess I should have been tracking if she took any damage and if that would have triggered concentration. I don't know if she actually did take any damage. I can't remember. Somebody might have to help me with that. I remember Cotwald was the main one that was getting beat up by this thing. So yeah, I don't remember if it's still going or not, but I was going to go ahead and give her Gust of Wind, which actually helps alleviate some of the stress for me in terms of having all these guys just rush up and start attacking. Also, I think we need to look at like some kind of mass combat rules or something. I don't want to run all those individual Sahuagin so much as have it be like a end of the round thing where they're all advancing. The gate AC 18, 50 hit points, and a damage threshold of 14. It's even stronger, but still has a DC 18 athletics check. So that's the main piece of information that we need. I'm going to put in my notes. So Bronze Gate can be attacked, but also can be forced open with a successful athletics check. I assume that is an action to do that, which is a big deal. It's you have to, like any combat situation where you have to sacrifice a character's action to do a thing is a pretty big deal. And I would assume that would be it. And I think they would only get the one chance. So that's not technically a gimme, but he's got like a 70 or 75% chance to do that, I think, with his modifier. I mean, assuming Cotwald's the one that does it, I guess anybody could do it. Gottwald Athletics plus 11. So you would need to roll a 7 or higher. I don't know exactly what the stats are for that. Dude's sitting at 5 hit points, by the way, with 0 second wind and no hit dice. Obviously, he can't do... Oh, and he's got disadvantage, though. He's exhausted. Who is texting? Oh, yeah, the wife's texting me. That's under a bunch of pictures. That's right. I forgot he's exhausted. So disadvantage is going to make things a little trickier. Does still have action surge, though, interestingly enough. They do have potions. He's still embiggened. I think that would actually cancel the disadvantage, maybe? I'm trying to remember how that works, because I think he's got advantage on athletics checks while he's embiggened. So, also, if you notice, there's a crowd of people here. So, they are literally moving with a crowd. This is part of the transitioning from a cinematic quick time event type situation into okay, now we're in top-down battlefield mode, and I wanted to make sure it was represented by having this crowd of people with them while they were escaping. Now, it's still abstracted a bit because, I think there were probably over a dozen survivors with them. There's certainly not that many here. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's only 9 here, but they also have all of their NPCs, which is another 3. And then Mac is actually on the other side with his Master Sliver right there, and he's got people chasing him as well. But I figured they're still going to have to deal with these people. Once again, I'm not going to roll individual initiatives for everybody. I think I'm still going to have it be, I don't know, some kind of mass combat rule where I'll have everybody move at different times. Begin to only last for a minute. Yeah, I am kind of... I've been giving him the embiggen for a while. I guess we can talk about that if we want it to wear off or not. I think he embiggened during the combat scenario we had in the staircase fight, I believe. Was it during that one? And then when we went to the chase sequence, that was something he mentioned. Is like, well, am I still embiggened? Or maybe it was the patrol battle before that. I don't remember. And then he's like, hey, am I still embiggened? And I said, yes, because you guys have been going pretty fast. But yeah, the chase lasted 5 rounds. So you could argue it's, even if we're counting all the rounds individually, it might have been wearing off by now. So we can talk about the balance wise. If I'm really giving it to him, stretching there a little bit much, letting him be embiggened, this long. Or maybe I can give it to him for a round or two in this fight and then have him be de-embiggened. Because honestly, I haven't been tracking. If I cared about it, or if somebody wants to go back and track when he embiggened and then how many rounds have gone by versus what was the actual, like, you know, you can count it being a round between the combat and the chase sequence, maybe, you know, seconds went by or something. But yeah, 1 minute is pretty quick. But they'll also have to contend with this group of people. I don't know at the moment if I'm going to have these folks all move as, well, I probably will. Everybody move at once. I don't know what time to do that. Maybe like initiative 10 or something. And then maybe at 0 have all the Sahuagin move. But then the Sahuagin that are here are actually going to be normal combatants. I think that's how I want to play it. So like this will be like the horde, which will all move at once and probably just be represented by, like, you know, a couple ranged attacks or something, versus the ones that are here, which there's six regular Sahuagin and 1 Coral Smasher in this area. They will be normal combatants and roll initiative like normal, and they will sit there and they'll probably be attacking not to kill, but to knock people out, because they still want to have prisoners, presumably. So that'll be interesting, and maybe that'll force the players to have to grab some people and keep them up. I think I'm just going to use, do these have the commoners stat block? Yeah, that's probably fine. Make sure everybody's got commoner. Some of these are just tokens. They don't have any kind of sheets attached to them. I guess that's not actually going to give it. Well, I just got to remember there's like 7 hit points average on everybody. Maybe I can just do that. There's a chance they might actually be able to take a hit. I think they have an AC of 10. Is that right for commoners? Yeah. It's pretty solid. 7. Everybody gets a 7. I guess those are the default commoner stat blocks. They've already got it. But we're up at a critical majesty. He's trying to open the door. Yeah. Like he de-biggins right when he gets to the front or something. So let me look up. I think it's mass combat is what I'm trying to find. We just do massive. I don't know what Fate Forge beta is. I need to turn that off because I get all kinds of stuff from that. Once again, man, they add random compendium stuff in here. Mass combat is not under rules. Spells, monsters, content, adventures. Okay. Am I mistaken that there's a section for mass combat? Or is that something that's not in 5e? I don't know where to put this. Is something I really haven't had to deal with too often. Having just a shit ton of enemies. But I'm thinking like initiative level 0 will make them last. And I could use like the average of the Sahuagin. So like, and they do have to still, as long as Sabra's in the back, she can continuously use Gust of Wind to push people back, which I could just probably roll 1 thing for everybody. I think you have to treat them as like a full horde, which is like a con save or a strength save, I think, just to be able to move forward. But I don't know if Gust of Wind actually fucks with range attacks at all. You'd think it would. Especially thrown things. Gust of Wind. Really doesn't, though. It only affects movement and candles, torches, and similar unprotected flames. Doesn't have any effect on range attacks. Okay. Because that's what I'll probably do, is kind of treat it almost a little bit like the chase sequence and just have the Sahuagin hucking spears at range. Which they would definitely be in range. Normally it would be disadvantage, but with their Blood Frenzy it would be normal. Unless they're attacking the commoners, unless we assume that they're injured. Then they can be hucking spears, but just kind of use maybe an average of whatever their attack modifiers are. This dude doesn't even have range attacks. The Sahuagin Blade Master. It's the champion, which I could still use my notes from the chase sequence then to actually do that, because the champion I think was a +5, and the regular Sahuagins were a +4 in terms of their range damage, and then +1 for the regulars and +3 here. So come up with some kind of rule for initiative 0. Whoever's in the back is going to get like pelted with spears to represent the horde, reaching them very quickly. And maybe I'll do like the commoners all move at like initiative level 10, and they just kind of spill into this room, but they're unarmed. They're, running into all the Sahuagin. Difficult terrain to get past everybody for sure, because everybody's just kind of bumped up right here. And then they have to open this gate with that athletics check, or they can technically attack it. You can use the pulley system. Anybody can do that, but it takes 3 rounds, which is gnarly. Or you can just bash it open. You can try to attack it, but that's also going to take a long time. AC 18, 50 hit points. Damage threshold of 14 means I believe you have to do at least 14 damage with 1 attack just to do any damage to the gate. And it's got 50 hit points, so that would be really painful to try to hit that down any other way versus the athletics check. I don't know if these Sahuagin would really be able to attack through the gate. I'm assuming by gate they mean like some kind of portcullis situation, right? Where it's like visibility is not fucked up, which is why I used the window here instead of the door, because that gives off the effect of blocking the token from going through, but opening up visibility. So the window can actually be used for jail doors and gates and all that kind of thing. Disadvantaged strong wind condition. Yeah, that's true. But like I said, the way 5e works is if anybody has advantage on anything, which like for them, Blood Frenzy, then they can have like a million disadvantages and 1 advantage, and it still like cancels each other out, which is, you could argue that's kind of bullshit, but that's just the way the easy system works here. Because these guys all have Blood Frenzy, if any of their targets are missing hit points, then they'll, from what I understand, they'll never have disadvantage on anything, which makes these Sahuagin pretty damn powerful. Hopefully the players will still be able to deal with this. I realize they don't have very much power on them. In fact, I think Toril even spent his spell. They have not been able to short rest since this chase sequence. Although both him and Gottwald still have their second wind. Yeah, he used his spell. I know he used Hunger of Hadar earlier. I don't know what he used his second spell on. I kind of forgot, because they did short rest after the temple battle. I don't remember if he did like a thunder wave or something. It is quick and easy. Yep, that's what I like. Max actually doing the best out of anybody because he wasn't in the last session, so that kind of helps balance things for him. And plus he's got his, and all their NPCs are still capable as well. Technically Borges and the Triton are both armed and dangerous, so the Triton is almost dead. The Lizard Queen still has all her spells, and then we're using this Wererat stat block for Master Sliver from Monster Manual Expanded. However, he does not have weapons. He would only be able to do his bite attack, I guess. Makes 2 attacks, only one of which can be a bite. Ooh. I think it's the 1 bite, but he does get sneak attack if he needs it. So we can use that stat block as well. It's kind of fun the way they're just like gaining all these new allies as they go. And the big thing is, once they get past this portcullis gate situation, and then suddenly you've got all these other enemies, and the players are like, holy shit, DM, how are we ever going to make it through here? I'm going to try to time it where at whatever moment I deem most exciting, that's when this door will bust open, and we can have all of these other lizard folk reinforcements come spilling out. Because I did tease in the previous session, at the beginning of it, that the Lizard Queen did some kind of trance thing, and then she came out of it and said, I've contacted my people through some kind of bullshit DM powers, and somehow she's let them know that she's alive and they need to come reinforce them, basically. And this is the big exciting, like, the only way they're gonna make it out of here alive is if they have people like covering and being able to hold the line for them to be able to get out. I can have their ship be right there. in the distance, and there's like giant crossbow bolts like firing at the thing. Maybe the ship has some Thornhold people on it, and they're, whatever. It's gonna be a big cinematic moment, basically. Just once they make it to here, and the lizard folk comes streaming out, we can maybe even transform it into cutscene mode, depending on how things are going, and it'll be a little tricky there. I don't want to necessarily just save everybody, but hopefully it's not too much of a Deus Ex Machina, because I did they've got reinforcements out there, and I teased the fact that the lizard folk, the players still don't know what's going to happen, but the queen was able to contact her people and say like, all right, now they know I've reached out to them. So I've literally took the same token, the scale shield stat block, and a bunch of lizard folk are here, and they're going to cover. What I don't really have interested in doing is running all of this like a traditional combat encounter. That would just get real crazy real fast. So that's why I'm trying to time it where once the lizard folk, breach open the door, and plus I don't think the players, I guess it would lock from the inside, so you could just unlock it from this side and open it up. But it would be really cool and dramatic if the lizard folk actually were the ones that burst open the door and immediately started firing and kind of helping out in that regard. Maybe I'll let things go for like a round, especially if some of the players or NPCs are like back here still or something, and I really want them to move up without necessarily immediately saving them in a cutscene mode. But, as somebody who plays a lot of action-adventure video games, I think most of us are okay with like, you're in the middle of a really tense battle, and then you get to a moment and the cutscene, or JRPGs too, and you get to a moment and then like the cutscene happens, and you kind of lean back and like, oh, thank God I made it to the cutscene, right? Like, I think we're all just assuming, okay, now I'm gonna watch things like unfold. I've done my part. Now I'm gonna watch the story unfold, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm not interested in running this like a very nitty gritty, fight to the end thing. I gotta make sure everybody's moving. Oh no, you're not quite out of there yet. But the tricky thing will be, when do I want to trigger that timing? And that's not really something I can plan for. I can watch for, again, make sure everybody's kind of at least made it to room 1 instead of room 2, so made it beyond the gate. And at some point, whenever they're like opening the door or getting near the door, or maybe somebody stopped their turn here, I don't know. I don't have a strict triggering moment for that, I guess, parameter or whatever, condition, other than just trying to, play it live and see how it goes. But that's my plan, is to have that big cutscene moment where lizard folk burst in. And then once they do, at most, we'll probably be running like one round of combat, and then we will just go to cutscene mode and let the lizard folk kind of cover, and the players can usher out of there. Maybe there's a little dinghy here waiting for them. They can jump on their ship. Their ship is there, like firing, crossbow bolts and stuff, and they're still firing off Sahuagin, and they're like, we got to get out of here, because it's not even a case of like, oh, we made it out, now there's a huge fleet attacking the Sahuagin stronghold. That's not something I can do. Instead, it's like, oh no, we got to get the fuck out of here, because they still have way more numbers and power, even though we've dealt them a pretty decent blow here by taking all their captives, and most importantly, they were able to sever the connection that the mind flayers had. So they kind of disrupted their, pseudo-religious supernatural network, sort of. So that would also put the Sahuagin a little bit on their back foot, or back fin, maybe. They did not take out the Sahuagin leadership. They took out the High Priestess, I guess, but the Baron and Baroness are technically still there. So if I was doing some kind of like, Fallout style end game, I'm sure there's other games that do this, but I remember the Fallout games specifically do this, where they would have like a slideshow at the end of the game that would go through as far back as like Fallout 1 and 2, and they would feature all of the choices and decisions that you made or didn't make, and how that played into the story, just kind of in these brief little epilogue vignettes too. It was just a mention of like, oh yeah, because you did this, then this happened, or because you didn't do that, now this is going to happen. And it just played out like that. So that's something I can keep as a note and be like, all right, well, because you did that, but the Sahuagin are still pretty powerful. The lizard folk have not been able to retake their area, and they've only been able to do like guerrilla, forces right now. But hopefully the players will help, foster a better relationship between the lizard folk and Thornhold, and the queen. Actually, probably saving the queen is going to be the linchpin there, because with the queen, she was really the diplomatic one and the savvy one with all the other neighbors, to where with her back she would be able to establish a more formal alliance with Thornhold, maybe even down to like Waterdeep, and really help integrate the lizard folk into their neighboring society, I guess, rather than having to be living out in the swamp. Although some lizard folk may dig that, I don't know. You just fight those freaking nasty, death-staring catablipusses. Damn it, I don't want to pronounce that word anymore. So that's all I have planned for this last session. It could still take a while. Combat can take a while. But I reduced a lot of the numbers in here. Like initially it was room 2. Actually, room 2 only did have the 2 Sahuagin, so I kept that the same, just 2 regular Sahuagin. But then room 1, which was the main entrance guard area, had 6 Sahuagin, 2 Coral Smashers, and a Champion. I reduced that to 4 Sahuagin and 1 Coral Smasher and nothing else. So I really cut that one down because they're just, I mean, I had to do that really with every room, but this one especially, they're at the end of the ropes. But I'm also making sure there's enemies. I might put those a little bit further back, actually. There are enemies who are really close to the players, and they're the ones that are going to be, I actually want to put them further back, but also I want to make sure he's got line of sight so we can see them coming back. The hordes are following them, but they're not like full combatants, right? They're probably like initiative level 0. Let's see, I'm going to write this part down. So let's go. Let's see. Chase ending. Let's see. NPC prisoners move at initiative 10. And then Sahuagin Horde moves at initiative 0. And then the Sahuagin Horde probably using range attacks mostly, because that's what's I think really going to fuck up the players. If the Sahuagin Horde actually ever gets within melee range of them, suddenly the players are having to worry about like disengaging and all that. But also I want to be not too fake with it and be like, all right, well, obviously they can move, whatever distance they can move to catch up. I think that's the furthest back I can put them while still giving Mac, unless I moved Mac a little bit. Okay, if I moved Mac to here, maybe here. Okay, then I can actually put them, because he still has visibility there. Yeah. You can actually see the gate yet, but then I can move these guys back. So I was putting the other guys 60 feet back, so I kind of want to do the same thing with him. 60 feet would be quite a ways back. Looking at that far distance. That's actually probably the edge of his vision. I'm going to move him a little bit closer, so he's got edge of his... There we go. All right, that's what he can see on his dark vision. So he's got dudes coming from back there. So more than likely, because they want to be range attacking, they'll be moving to 30 feet, and then range attacking, 30 feet, range attacking, and so on. But the gust of wind could stop them from even going 30 feet closer. I will just probably roll all of them. Let's see, is that a... this weird Fate Forge bait? I don't know what the hell that is. By the way, I think the Eye of Vecna prequel adventure came out on Roll20, so I can do that review probably next week. This has been just a fucked up week for me this week. I haven't gotten anything done review-wise. Let's see. It's a strength saving throw pushed 15 feet away from you. So I can pretty much say they'll be like holding this area, because if they're pushed 15 feet away, well, I guess they can move 30. Well, no, difficult terrain. So yeah, so they would basically stay where they are if they were moving, if they failed that save. So that is a strength save. That would actually keep the horde at bay, really, with Gust of Wind. What a fantastic spell for this situation. Really keeps them back there, but would still be able to do their spear attacks at range. Now, I could also, anytime I'm targeting a player, I could also include like 1 commoner or 2, and say like, oh, the commoners are also getting hit by these poor spear attacks. It's something I try not to do too much. Actually, it's something I do to balance fights a lot, is like how much do I target the NPCs versus the players, because clearly it's more impactful and interesting to involve the players versus NPCs. In terms of fair and balance, though, you should include NPCs as targets. And then a lot of times what I will do is behind the scenes balancing. If I feel like the players are doing too well or too poorly, then I may decide to target NPCs more or less than other times. And we talked about, last week with the post-session chat, Chris was kind of like, hey, what would you do if I had, like, my player had gotten killed here? And I'm like, well, it's technically on the table and it needs to be on the table. And I think this would be a fun moment where you could technically sacrifice yourself to free others. And I could tell he was kind of conflicted about it. We're not, we don't run into player character deaths very often in our campaigns. We play it more like a television show where a lot of the main characters have some plot armor or something. Even shows like, Game of Thrones or Walking Dead, like, characters, death was a thing, but they would often get out of scrapes that, a normal person would have been killed in. But this is a situation where Gottwald is really, really injured. I mean, Sabra too, like a lot of people, Toral's at half health. And I think this is a big cinematic moment where you could have somebody do a kind of sacrificial martyrdom or something. Now, that being said, I also have plenty of NPCs that could step in and do kind of a similar thing if they need to. Borges obviously being the big candidate because he's the one NPC the players care about the most, and frankly, he's the one that has the least story going on, right? They had no idea. Everybody else they came in to specifically rescue. Matt came in to specifically rescue Master Sliver. They knew about Harley's partner being in here, the Triton, and then they were given the quest to find the queen. They didn't know that she was, like, here or alive. Borges was just kind of a happy accident. I've had players play an NPC for a while if the characters die, which is another thing in the D&D universe, right? Like, Revivify and Resurrection are spells, like Raise Dead. Like, those are spells that are not super uncommon if you can make it back to, a town or just the DM's choosing if we want to try to, revive somebody. It's almost just a monetary penalty that players have to take, basically. If you're able to recover the body, I think is the main thing. And this would actually be a time where, like, yeah, you could kill somebody off, but as long as they can grab the body and move, then, I mean, they're literally at the end of the dungeon. Like, they could take the ship and be like, all right, well, we need to go down to, like, Waterdeep or go up to Neverwinter or whatever and find a cleric and just revive them. Then they can be back, the next session. So it really takes a lot of the sting out of actually dying. I think that the parts that makes it awkward is if you don't have, which we don't have a cleric in this team, actually one of the few parties that has no real healing class at all, in fact, right? We've got Wizard, Fighter, Warlock, and Ranger. I think the Ranger has, like, Cure Light Wounds or something. That's about it. Obviously, the Fighter's got Second Wind and stuff, but they just rely on a bunch of potions. But no access to any of those Revivify type spells, or I could even, I think I could give the Queen, a Revivify or something if I really needed to, as like a reward for getting out of that. That one might feel a little too Deus Ex Machina though. So that's something to also consider. And one reason why I shouldn't have to pull my punches too much is like, hey, even if somebody goes down, first of all, you've got death saves, right? That's a thing. But if you do legitimately go down, then we can always revive you. Now, in this situation, during the chase sequence and stuff, it does get trickier because, like, if you're going down and you're literally like, you're Hodor, right? You're like, hold the door because he's keeping everybody back while everybody else escapes. You're like literally saying goodbye or leaving that person. Then I don't know if you can actually properly raise them because you've lost their body, and are the Sahuagin actually going to capture you, and then you can do like a future story. But you're basically saying like, all right, well, this character is gone, they are outside of the context of the story. Good lord, I hope the players don't try to come up with some kind of like rescue attempt, because I'm so done with this dungeon at this point. Which is, if somebody had gone down or there was a TPK like earlier in this dungeon, we could have done a whole thing where they get thrown in the jail and it becomes like a whole different adventure. But at this point, when they're literally escaping, I have zero interest in returning to this area and doing any kind of more content. I think we're all pretty much done with this area, though we did end up seeing all 3 maps, so there you go. What was the total rooms that we went through for this area? I forgot what I kind of playfully put as the over-under. We can chart their progress, though, because I think the entire thing is about 60 rooms. And I can tell you exactly if we count whatever they put as rooms. So they went through here, which was room 61. The dungeon area, technically all one room. It's used as little letters. That's room 50. So that's 2 rooms. The arena we can count is 3 rooms. Then we went up to the barracks, which is technically another 2 rooms. So that's 5 rooms. So we're at 5 so far on level 3. Level 2, we activated the little shark pen rooms. That's another one. That's 6. And then we went down. We saw this barracks, but we didn't interact with it. Instead, there's the fucking Hugger of Bill Hader. So the temple would be room 7. We didn't do any side rooms, just the temple. The stairs down here, we could count that as the patrol, was room 8. And then we go, so it's only 3 rooms on level 2. We're at 8. Level 1, we clearly interacted with the main room down here is 9. And then the stairs room. And then we just montaged them up a bunch of hallways, but didn't interact with any rooms. So technically this one, room 2, is our 10th room. Area, whatever you want to call it. And then if you want to count this other area, room 1, would be number 11. So for anybody curious, we did 11 rooms out of, I think, 60. Pretty low percentage, I would say, of areas, but I'd be very curious to anybody who played through the Final Enemy module adventure and how many areas your players actually ended up doing. I'm very proud of them, though, that they never got a long rest. I gave them a few short rests, and plus we have that rule where we only take 5-minute short rests, but they never got a long rest in here because it's a very dangerous situation. You know, patrols everywhere. I mean, hell, you're underwater for a good chunk of it. I forget even how our players are dealing with the water thing, but they've got out of the water at this point. So they were not able to long rest in that dungeon, which really limits your dungeon crawling capabilities. And I believe they even long rested before they did the swamp stuff with the lizard folk as well. So I put like extra things that they had to do early on. So this is how you challenge your players, folks. It's all about the resting. Like, it is all about the resting. Now, sometimes you can't really help it. Like we had, you know, like if you have like a tavern brawl or something, or we had the tower interlude with the 2 players, like where they're in a city and it's like, well, why wouldn't we just go, you know, for an afternoon, go out, do our one little quest, and then come back and then long rest the next day and chill? Like, yeah, there's nothing really I can do about that. Other than if we're going off an adventure, then the players usually don't abuse that situation. But when they're in this kind of thing, where they're in a dungeon crawling dangerous area, then yeah, I think it's pretty easy and more effective to put the kibosh on any kind of extra. Although this is when players, you know, pull out like Leomund's Tiny Hut and all those crazy spells that drive me absolutely nuts and really break the entire balance of the game. Thankfully, nobody's got access to any of those kind of spells, because those are the ones that really, as a DM, drive me nuts, because the balancing for D&D is just all about measuring and mitigating, and I gotta sneeze. I'm okay. And trying to, you know, properly balance how often the players can do those rests. Plus, we have a fighter and a warlock, which are classes that very much enjoy the short rest and can take better advantage of the short rest, and are probably properly balanced if the party is taking at least 2 short rests per long rest. And I think we've really been able to do that throughout this entire campaign. This one did go a little bit extreme to where, you know, there was one short rest where like our fighter was like, I have no hit dice. Like that's telling me like, oh damn, okay, this has been a pretty big slog for these guys. But they will be skidding to the finish line for sure. And that will finally end. You know, we'll have some little cutscene moment, and they'll have some falling action, whatever they want to discuss. The Tritons will probably choose to stick with the ship and the crew, so they'll gain whatever his name is, Kish, who is Kish and Borges are both actually in the Final Enemy. Borges will definitely, if he survives, both of them, if they survive, will stick with the party. The queen will go back to her people, so she will not. I guess, actually, everybody's going to have to go back to Neverwinter now that I think about it. because they've got all these people they have to turn in. So that'll be kind of a weird montage where I mentioned the fact they'd never be back. But, especially if you take out the Sahuagin, then maybe... well, I guess the Sahuagin are still pretty active, so you'd have to take a wide berth around the area. Let's go back to the map. I have no problem with them going back to Neverwinter. It's gonna take them a couple days. It just feels weird because all their shit is further south. Maybe you can be like, hey, do you folks mind going to Waterdeep? Because that's more on our way. Maybe some of them are from Waterdeep. I don't know. I guess I mentioned the fact that Waterdeep was able to rebuff any attacks coming after them. Because, yeah, Neverwinter is a solid, like, another 3 days out. And then when they go south, they'll have to no longer hug the coast. They'll have to kind of go around the area into the open waters. But if they want to turn in those people and Master Sliver, like, all those people are actually from Neverwinter. So I don't have a problem. I guess we could just montage them going back to Neverwinter, turning people in, leveling up, resupplying if we need to resupply. And then we'll head out south again on our next quest, which is going to be... the Styes. So this will be, I believe, the last of the... Oh, and then the Lizard Folk Queen will reward the player. The poor players have gotten, like, no rewards, basically, from this whole area, by the way. There's not been a whole lot of treasure. They've missed what little treasure there was. I mean, to get the treasure, you would have to have fought, like, these really nasty barracks rooms, which would not be in the player's best interest. However, I did mention Lizard Folk Queen had a necklace on that protected her from drowning, obviously. So she will be able to give that to the party. So they will get a necklace of adaptation, which I think will still go over pretty well with like either Savra or Mac or somebody who doesn't actually have any kind of water breathing capabilities. It does require attunements, but I think the party still has some attunement slots. I've actually been pretty stingy on magic items for this campaign, I believe, so they will get access to that. I don't know if I want to throw any other... Honestly, I guess we'll talk about that during the next crafting. I haven't thought about encounters along the way. I think we talked a little bit about that last week, or if like the party want to stop in Waterdeep, and if there's like anything I want to throw at them for... I mean, it makes sense if you're traveling south, just kind of resupply, especially if that's like a week's travel on the sea. I think we're looking at every hex being a day. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's like about a week's travel by ship to get from Neverwinter to Waterdeep. Is that right? I guess that's right. Or do they go 2 hexes a day? Maybe it's 2 hexes? Week seems kind of long. I put the Styes in Orlumbor in my campaign because all of the Ghost of Saltmarsh stuff is actually I believe designed for Greyhawk, so you kind of have to figure out a spot to put it in the Forgotten Realms, in the Sword Coast. So that was the random place I picked. Orlumbor actually does have stuff going on in the Scouring the Seas chapter. I think, is that the one where it's the dragon comes out and tells you about the quest? It has like the witch or something? Let's see. Orlumbor, suggested encounter, visited by Lamarantz, an ancient bronze dragon who lairs in the island. Dragon approaches cautiously in case she's mistaken for an evil dragon. There's also his mother Claws. She inquires whether the party visiting Orlumbor, whether they saw a ship named the Bobbing Barrel on the journey. Do her a favor. She's the proprietor of the Scaly Eye Merchant Company, which operates along the Sword Coast. Pirate's a bit more bold. If she was rescuing a crew near Luskin, she lost contact with the Bobbing Barrel. Mother Claws fears the cog must have been attacked in Asavir's channel near the Nilanther Isles, which, yeah, is where the pirates are based. Promises 500 gold for information, plus an additional 50 gold for each crew member they recover. Zok Narixis is the bandit captain. Mother Claws gives the character a blue pennant, blue weeping item for them to fly as a flag of the Scaly Eye fleet and offers protection against pirates. Character searching the ocean's floor of Asavir's channel. Excuse me, DC 18. Oh, jeez. You'd have to notice, search the floor. I'm part of the wrecked Bobbing Barrel among the masses of sunken ships there. It was sunk by the curse of Urfong, and the crew were taken to Driftwood docks via the Sea Tower of Urfong, which has this whole, like, zombie dragon turtle guarding the area, which I definitely want to do, because that sounds awesome. We have not done a ship combat with a giant monster yet, and that seems like the best use of that, for sure. I don't know if I need to actually have them It seems like the purpose of that side quest is to take the players down there, but they already know they need to be down there. I guess they don't know they have to be specifically on Sever's channel. So, but if I'm doing the styes, I can't have a bronze dragon like based out of here either, because that would should be taking care of that. So I'm probably not going to use that one, because the styes will hopefully be a very nice palette cleanser for what we just had, which is a very combat heavy, I guess like infiltration at first and then combat heavy dungeon encounter. Whereas the styes is going to be more of a like investigation situation. It's been a while since I looked at this one. I love this look. This reminds me of the first Dishonored game where they had this really cool like wailing steampunk dock aesthetic that was really unique and memorable in that game. I really liked the world building they did for I guess Dishonored 1 and 2, but 1 especially I remember. The Styes, a series of mysterious murder shakes the downtrodden folk of the Styes, a decaying port fallen in hard times, slowly being reclaimed by the sea. Yeah, it's a serial killer. Lantern ghost killers caught and executed. Some of the district believe the true killer is still out there. Follow the clues. The local militia ignores exposing corruption, clandestine activities of a dark cult, and the alien presence whose evil lurks beneath it all. Designed for 11th level characters, so we're going to have to balance this one in the other direction versus what we've kind of had to do a little bit with the other adventures, where I think we've been scaling them up a little bit or even leaving them the same. In fact, the final enemy, I believe, was designed for 7th level, which is exactly where the players were. They will be gaining 1 level, so they'll be 8th level, but certainly not 11th level, which this one ends with like you fighting, I think, multiple aboleth and a young kraken, which all seems to be obviously a bit much. What I teased instead, and what I will be doing, because they're working for an aboleth, is we'll replace the evil aboleth who is here. I remember the first one, it's like an aboleth who is like following Tharizdun or something, got corrupted, and now he's training or whatever, doing with molding a young kraken, and then like a pair of aboleths show up to like, I don't know, arrest whatever aboleths do, like basically kill him or take him back to aboleth headquarters or something, and the party has to end up fighting like all these different crazy creatures. Instead, since they're technically working for the aboleths, the one the aboleth told them about, I'll be putting one of the Mind Flayer generals in the styes, something I really liked that Call from the Deep, I thought what Call from the Deep did, because they made all these like Mind Flayer lieutenants, where they all had like unique art. I wonder if I can pull it up real quick, and like little stories and stuff. What is that going to be under? Maybe the Crash. Does it talk about all the Mind Flayer? Maybe it's under Adventure. Not actually seeing. Maybe it's the art isn't mentioned in here. Or the colony of Zelix 4 is the attendance of Zelix 4. Yeah, this is the area. I don't know why that doesn't have the art here, but I guess if you just click on everybody, it'll show up all of these guys like Druskus, and they all have got their own like backstory and stuff, which is cool. They've got unique artwork. They met one of them. I forget which one it was. Who was in the cave that they did, and he actually was able to get away. But I want to put one of these guys is basically in charge of, like, all of the lieutenants were like out, you know, in different areas. Instead, what Call from the Deep did is it put one of them in the Bronzo Mine. That's the area I couldn't think of. On Gunbarg, it put one of them there, and then the other 3, Thiliask, I think, is the one that was in Bronzo Mine. Yeah, he's in Bronzo. Really cool, like, unique artwork for all the Mind Flayers, though. And then the other 3 are just waiting in the final dungeon, which is the Ascarl, I think. So that felt really disappointing to me. I was like, well, why not put these guys? You know, it feels good when the players take on like meaningful bosses, and this would be a perfect way to do that. Is you've already got these like generals here. You know, you're not fighting the main boss, but at least we can, you know, deal a pretty heavy blow. And I feel like at 8th level, the party would be okay to fight a Mind Flayer. And in this case, I think all of these Mind Flayers are a little stronger than the average Mind Flayer. I think they all have like even unique abilities and stuff. telepathic reinforcement, mind lash, like maybe even different spells. Like, yeah, so these are all kind of unique stat blocks. So we can just kind of pick one of these that we want to use. And look at, they even have unique stats. Like some of them are more hit points than others. Some of them are more maybe combat motivated. So that's interesting. So I'm going to look at all 4 of these again and decide which one I want to put in the styes. And that will definitely be an opportunity for the players to battle them. So instead of that main Aboleth enemy, which I forget the Aboleth's name in the styes, but I'll be replacing that one with the Mind Flayer. But I can still keep the fact that maybe the Mind Flayer is creating another Elder, another Kraken, but maybe also giving it like, gonna give it a tadpole or something, right? And actually like turn it into a proper, or maybe I can even already having done that, basically somehow illithidize a Kraken. I wonder if that's, maybe they have to like create a big enough tadpole to do that or something, a bunch of tadpoles. So I'll need to, I want to keep the story as much as possible because the original like serial killer, like investigation thing is pretty cool, but I'm not going to be using any of this like Mark of Tharizdun or Aboleth thing. Skog, oh god, all these Aboleth names. Skogga, just like choke when you talk, is the name of the Aboleth here. Found a juvenile Kraken. And then, yeah, I thought that the saw a pattern, thought it was Tharizdun's dark madness, took this man as a sign, gifted it with the task of nurturing the Kraken until it was fully grown. So the difference here is it'll be the Mind Flayer was sent here, I guess, found this young Kraken and thought the best way to create this new biological weapon is creating another Kraken. But this time, instead of having the Elder Brain grafted onto it, actually like integrate it into the, you know, Mind Flayer network by tadpoling it, or whether or not it's already tadpoled or not. Now, why that has an effect on the styes, I guess I'll need to figure out what is, how that actually manifests here. Can never be raised to maturity without risking discovery by the other Aboleths. Fled the abyss, thinking with the juvenile Kraken. Number of loyal aquatic minions headed for coastal waters. Aboleths avoided. Purely by chance, ocean inwards came to a stretch of water where the once notable port district minor city had fallen into decay and corruption. Known as the Styes, the district was only a wretched shadow of what it had been before. The Aboleth found a perfect location to hide the Kraken, a sunken temple to the west of the district, known to the locals as Landgrave's Folly. It's a great name. Skogga quickly established mind control of a local cadre of fishers and sailors, which I think Mind Flayers would be able to do by tadpoling people. You know, doing the whole... I'm learning a lot about how the Mind Flayer shit works with Baldur's Gate, by the way. Sending them to infiltrate every corner. So instead of having... So this is interesting. Although when you tadpole people, they turn into Mind Flayers eventually. But you can create thralls with Mind Flayers, right? I need to look up how the thrall thing works. So I wouldn't be using maybe the creepy Aboleth idea, which is where they turn into Aboleth thralls, where they're all kind of like moist and like nasty. I almost picture the I guess Senator Kelly in the first X-Men movie. But instead I'll be doing the Illithid thrall thing. How does that work? There are 2 L's in... By the way, do we pronounce it Illithid or Illithid? And is that, maybe that's just a like European pronunciation? Because Baldur's Gate does Illithid, and I have never been able to make peace with that. But I'm sure there's, you know, I'm pulling a Chris where I'm mispronouncing things constantly. I've always in my mind, and I thought the D&D folks also pronounce it Illithid, putting the emphasis on a certain part of the word, but maybe that's just how the Baldur's Gate folks pronounce it, Illithid. Either one's cool, honestly. Or just say Mind Flayers. I thought there are, I guess, lowers I'm looking for. Is it only the core? I guess I should have searched Mind Flayer. Oh, this is the section. Okay. Colony, Mind Witness, Mind Flayer Scion, Neothalids. Tadpoles left unattended. The tadpoles from each of the survivor grows to immense size compared to purple worms. These behemoths devour everything in their path. The other thing is we can do something that's not the Kraken, This is the thing. I think I used a picture of it for, which would be a way to rebalance it, because I probably can't have the players actually fight a young juvenile Kraken. That would be probably nuts. I could look at using a different stat block entirely. But they're already having to fight a Mind Flayer. Let's see. This is added in Volos, it looks like. So we'll use the one from Mordenkainen's, because that's going to be more recent. It's a giant, like, tadpole. It's reached a monster size. A CR13. Oh, shit. Is this stronger than a juvenile Kraken? Maybe not. Juvenile Kraken from Ghost of Saltmarsh. CR14. All right. They're pretty comparable. Jeez. Okay. I didn't realize this thing was so big. It's actually bigger than the juvenile Kraken. A gargantuan aberration. 232 hit points. Oh my good god. Well, that would be more like, hey, it's creating this bio. I could change the lore behind a Neothalid, basically. Instead of it being this like renegade tadpole, it's like something the Mind Flayer specifically created. Why they're doing it in this one town, I don't know. I think it's just because the lore for the Styes is that it's just, this is a spot that Aboleth picked to raise the Kraken, and then discovered an active cult of Tharizdun in the Styes. Let's discover one of the Styes' own ruling counselors, an inhuman creature that calls itself Mr. Dory. This cult of Tharizdun has thrived in the decay of the Styes for decades through enslavement and telepathy, which I think Mind Flayers have access to enslavement and telepathy, right? That's things that they do. Yeah, Mind Flayer thralls attempt to seize control population. It's ridding its leaders, or they use Psionics to dominate a humanoid and turn into a thrall. Use its ability to send visions humanoid shot. Is this like in their stat block though? I don't remember there being like a create thrall stat block. I guess that's the part I'm hung up on, is like, how do they actually go about doing this? They have dominate monster as a spell once per day, but that only gets you so far, right? Dominate person, dominate monster, which is just, I think it's the same thing as person, but everybody. And Demnex, you are squeaking into the end. Yeah, it only lasts for an hour. You actually cast Dominate Monster. 8th level spell, once per day. The process of transforming a creature into a thrall requires the entire colony's energy and attention, making it no small matter. It takes only one Mind Flayer to perform the process. Any Illithid not directly involved in the process is required to donate its psychic power to the effort, while otherwise remaining inactive. So having one Mind Flayer, having multiple thralls might be tricky. Maybe I just do a whole creepy thing where he's like slowly turning people into thralls. Changes everything about the victim. The creature retains its hit dice, hit points, racial traits, and all of its ability scores up for intelligence. Creature's intelligence is halved. The second stage over, the intelligence score increases by 1d6. Thrall receives a new set of proficiencies, a new alignment, new personality. Salvage victim psionic abilities and process to implement psionic powers of thralls. Because the Mr. Dory stat block, I think, is a unique one that we can also play around with. I really love the whole serial killer angle. Like, this adventure I remember being really fun and interesting, and I think the player's going to get a real kick out of it as well. And I want to try to run it as close to the book as I can, but I'm going to be changing the fact that I'm changing the whole Aboleth Kraken thing into a Mind Flayer at the end means I need to be able to, know what the end state is first, and then make sure I'm seeding in the proper lore bits and clues that lead to this. Now, they already have their information from the Aboleth that, like, I think they were told a Mind Flayer is here and up to no good. They just didn't know exactly what was going on, I believe. We go to Learn the location of one of the illithid leaders. The creatures are doing something dangerous in the city of Orlumbor to the south. So literally all they know is the location of an illithid leader. So they'll probably find a mind flare there. And something dangerous is in the city. And then, yeah, that'll be their big quest hook for going down there. So I'm looking forward to it. We will need to get new maps, unfortunately. Even the base maps. Well, I guess there's like a dungeon or two in there, like mini like rooms. It's not big dungeons, but it'll be a really nice reprieve from a massive, huge dungeon crawl versus like mostly town investigations and then like the occasional like, oh, now we're in like a sewer and we have to do this one battle or something. So I'm really looking forward to pacing wise how that's gonna unfurl. And what we still need to talk about is if we want to do any encounters along the way, because it is a pretty long way to get down there, and if we want to do anything to help pass the time, or just want to montage everybody down there because it's a neat location. But we'll have time to talk about that because I don't think we're going to get any to that. We're just going to clean up what we talked about earlier in the crafting session. That whole final battle, the epic climax, and then the kind of the falling action from the session or from the Sahuagin Stronghold final enemy ordeal, and then they will properly level up for next time, and the next time is when we'll kick off the Styes adventure. All right, that is going to do it for this Thursday edition of Crafting the Deep. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zenicider, Eclectic, Roleplayer, Christopher Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Cap Crystal, Counselor, Andrew, Dell, The Reldron, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie Pandic, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Lumpy, Spuds, Sharny, David, William, Amnesiac, Warden, Mike, and Gold patrons RPG, Pippercrabs, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Diliza Lounge, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Fazligator, Scott, Rufus, Karen, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you for D&D tomorrow.